It seems like making breakcore is really easy. Just grab a drum loop of your liking, download an atmospheric loop, layer it up, and here it is, 3-hour long breakcore mix. But we want to stand out of the crowd and make something interesting, spice up our generic loops. So here are a couple of tips to add more variety to your breakcore track. The first one is granular delay for pads. So I have chords like this here, just a random serum pad preset, and I have this plugin, Drift Maker. It's a great granular delay that you can put on pretty much anything. I made these gaps in these chords, so they will be filled with the delay tail of each hit. So without Drift Maker, and when we put Drift Maker on, it adds this grain effect to the chord progression. Layer this pad with some movement pad. And add some high-end noise to it. And all together, there are a couple of ways you can widen your sound and widen your pads. For example, I have just another serum preset pad here, and I just EQ'd it and added the wider plugin. It's a free plugin that you can use, just add around 15, maybe 20%, you don't need more. So without this plugin, and with wider on, just adds more space in the mix. You can also EQ each pad individually. So for example, this pad I cut low end and high end. The second pad I just concentrated on the high end of the sound, and the last more to the high mid frequencies, and all together Another great plugin that I already showed on this channel is Emergence. It's a granulator, so you can find an interesting sounds in here. Turn Emergence on. Another idea, you can play with the reverse sounds. So I have just a regular chord progression here, nothing special. You can pick whatever you want, some bass notes and a simple melody. And when we just render it all together, and here we have just a rendered audio. We just press R on our keyboard and reverse our audio, and we create this crossfade transition between these two clips. You can do this by turning automation off, and then we will have these dots on our audio tracks. Just pull them back and forth between these two clips, and we'll have our smooth transition. Melodies will grab most of the attention in a breakcore beat, and you can do melodies a couple of ways. You can split the melody into two different MIDI clips, and one put on the right and one on the left, so it will have like a wider sound around you. You can distort your melodies and use plugins like Redux, for example, just a stock Ableton one, to make it grainier and like 8-bit kinda crushed sound. But my favorite way of making melodies is obviously the vocal chops. So you can just grab a random anime girl voice sounds from YouTube and just put it into a simpler, basically, a simpler from Ableton. Choose a slice option here, and you can put it into a transient mode, which I think is the best for this one. Change the pitch of the sample, some volume, you know, whatever you want, and find the pattern that you will like in the end. You can add some saturation, some kind of a compression, which is just Kramet, which is a really strong compressor that you can use on your vocals. Then some Valhalla delay, but I use it for reverb, hi-fi modulated plate preset in the reverb section. And we have just a cabinet to add more warmth to the vocals. And in the mix, something that you can do with your drums. First of all, you can just grab a random loop that you enjoy. You can right click and choose the slice to new MIDI track option, and it will convert your drum loop into a MIDI clip like this. And you can play around with your drum patterns. I change it up a bit, add some glitches and repeating parts to it, and then just some post-processing to the drums, what you can do. I usually add some saturation, the delay plugin that I already showed you, change the dry-wet knobs to find the perfect sound for you, and adjust some compression, equalization, and I really like putting V-clip on my breakcore drums. So V-clip is saturating and compressing drums at the same time. And without this post-processing, it sounds okay, but with post-processing, they sound tighter, they sound more interesting, so I really recommend trying just compressing and saturating your drums to get something like really distorted and really strange, which is usually what people do in the breakcore, you know, making these drums absurd. Another tip for the drums, you can layer your kicks, for example, or snares up with another kicks and snares, and they will become even more punchier, more saturated. And even if they are clipping, you know, breakcore isn't about mixing and mastering the perfect way, it's just about the vibe. Even though I said that mastering doesn't really matter in breakcore, I can give you some tips to make the entire mix tighter. I use Golfos, is just the preferential thing, if you can use it or not, but Soothe is really good one. It gives you more control over your high end of the sound. You can just remove this unnecessary kind of shimmering or unnecessary frequencies like from hi-hats and crashes. You can also remove like the mud from the mid-range of the sound. Just overall some kind of equalization. I just removed like a really low end of the sound and really high end, and just play around with this middle part, because usually the mid-range of breakcore mixes are really strange and can be disturbing. A great compressor on the master, which is a Frontier. As you can see, I increased output a little bit and lowered the threshold just a bit. Find the balance, the ideal spot for your mix. And limiter, classic, you know, can't go wrong with it. Another limiter. And here is the most important tip. You should definitely put the anime girl on the cover of your track.